Hello there. So this week what we're doing is we're making a back-winning dress. So a short high-waisted skirt and back wings basically. So very simple. Now the fabric I'm using is a stretch jersey, so I've got rather a lot of this, so it's going to be nice and easy. Can I get it a bit closer? And it's got a crumpled design on it. Now I've done a test sew of it and it seems to sew just fine, so always a good idea to know before you start. Now I have my block pattern here, and the back's going to be quite straightforward and the skirt's going to be quite straightforward. So I need to follow the shoulder line and I need to follow the neckline for the back, and then the sleeves, I'm going to continue the line down, but I'm going to notch the material so that I know where the shoulder line is, and then I am going to join it up with the waist in a triangle, and then I'm going to sew some cuffs on. So that's basically my back. My front is a bit more complicated. I would like to do some gathers at the front. So I'm going to grab a scrap bit of paper. I'm just going to ignore the lines on there already. And I'm going to mark it for the back. And I'm going to draw to the point that I made for the bottom. And then I'm going to, with my scissors, just cut in at angles to that point. And then I'm going to stretch it out so that I've still got the width from the points, but I've got some extra cloth that can then hang down. And then the top line is still going to be the same. Okay, so my next point is to get all this cut out and then get all it laid out on my cloth. I could do the skirt now for you as well. So I have this red line here of my elasticated skirt. I'm going to go an inch above, so it's going to be slightly high-waisted. But I think what's best with this material is I double sew it, so that it's, if anything, the skirt is going to be like a large waistband. Okay, so that's my first stop. I'm going to pause the camera and make a start. Now, I've pinned my fabric to my cloth. There's a good reason to doing this, because this is quite slippy and quite difficult to gauge. I just feel that if I get called away, I will have to start again. So, you know, it's a good thing to actually make use of the pins. You know, we have pins, we're going to use them. So, on my block pattern, I don't actually use hem allowance. The main reason for this is, if I sew with the sewing machine, like I am today, then I need slightly more hem allowance than I do if I'm sewing with the serger. So I'm going to use slightly less. Now the only thing we didn't discuss is how long you would like your sleeves. So if we take the tape measure from the point of your arm, and then I can just look down. I know ideally it'd be nice if I had another set of hands. And I suppose back wing sleeves traditionally are 3/4 length. So we can just have a look there and line it up on here. So that's good. I've also got my cuff here. And I'm going to have cuffs on the sleeve. So, okay. So that's me up today. I'm just going to pause you, get them all cut out. I'll leave the pattern paper on there so we know. Hello there. So I've got all my bits. I've still got the pattern to take out. It's quite, well, if you like nice clean lines, then it's quite hard to cut this, because it just doesn't lie flat. So if you are doing this sort of material, just lie it flat on the table, and I've worked on the theory, I'll just do the best I can with it. So the main body of the dress is these two large pieces that literally just need sewing together. And that's easy enough. There's no right or wrong side to this fabric, but there is a right and a wrong stretch. If you stretch it that way, it's got give. If you stretch it that way, you've got lots. So, yes, you do have to work out the stretch of your fabric and when to ignore sticky out bits. So lovely. I'm just getting this lined up in my head, as it were, and then I'm getting it lined up in hand, as it were. And then it is just a matter of sewing around the outsides. I also have the cuffs here and I have the skirts. When I originally drew the dress on a bit of paper, a scrap of paper, I did want the skirt to fold over so that it was double thickness. I don't have enough cloth to do that to the length of skirt that I like. So I'm just going to adjust the pattern and put a seam in the bottom. So as I know, I've tested this and I know it sews quite well. Basically what I'm going to do is do a running stitch, but I'm going to do a running stitch on quite a low zigzag so that it's still got a bit of give in it. And then I'm going to go over the seams in a zigzag on the hem side so that it all stays together. Quite simple. So I'm just literally going along the top of the arm and I'm going to go along the shoulders, then I'm going to leave the neck hole unsewn, and then I'm going to go down the other arm, and then I'm going to come up from the waist to the shoulder so that it's all ready, and then we're going to move on to the skirts and the cuffs. And the process we'll be using for the cuffs and the skirts is going to be very similar. Okay, so I'm going to pause you again. So I have literally sewn around the outside, so it's all one. It's making a bit more sense to me. It's all one piece of cloth now, the top half. I'm just going to hem the neckline, and then I'm going to sew these pieces together so that I can put them all together. So to do that, the neckline, all I'm literally doing is doing a roll. I'm not going to pin it or anything, and if I get into difficulty, I'm going to stop. Now I'm still doing my loose zigzag stitch. This is probably even more important up here because of you'll be pulling it on and off. So, and if you pull this material, the material will give, but the stitches won't necessarily give. So that's all I'm going to do. So I've got a nice rolled hem around the neckline, and yeah, I'll be back in a minute. So welcome back. I've sewn up the sides and everything. I've got all my bits. Okay, I do like to be honest. I have put this in the sewing machine so that I know which is the bottom and which is the top. So I'm now on the skirt, and I'm just going to ask the machine politely to sew the rolled hem. So I've got it inside out still, so this is the inside. Now if you do try and do this ruffle type material, then patience is the key. I must admit, when I was cutting it, I didn't manage to cut it exceptionally well, and that might affect the outcome. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try it, and then I'm going to give it another go. If it really does look terrible, I'll find some other way around it. So that's as good a place to stop as any. So we have our 4 bits now. this is still inside out, and that's the top and that's the bottom. Had to think then. And I'm going to turn the skirt inside out and put the skirt inside the body just to sew it together. I'm going to line up the side seams, and because this is stretched, I'm going to use a pin. So now, I'm not a big fan of pins. I'm not very good with them. I keep sticking them underneath my nail. It really hurts. So if I suddenly burst into tears, don't worry, I've just done it again. Okay, and now I've got my other side seam, and I'm going to pin it again. And if you pin your pins up and down, so when you're sewing, you should be able to sew right over them. I don't recommend it, but if you accidentally leave one, then it won't damage the machine. Although you might break your needle, you might break your pin. Worst case scenario is it flies across the room. So yes, don't try and do it. Lovely. So I put them 4 pins in there, and all I have to do is sew the skirt and the body together. Now, like I said, I turn the skirt inside out, so it is on the right side of the body, so they're both on the outside now. And then this is just the sort of loose zigzag stitch that I find works quite well for my stretch fabric. So I'm just coming up to a pin, and I'm going to take that out and then carry on sewing, because I don't want the machine to push the fabric from underneath, and then I'm not using a walking foot, I'm just using a normal foot. So I'm going to take this next pin out, and then I'm going to match the 2 seams up just to make it look nice and neat when it's finished. And there we go. So I'm halfway through. Okay, cut that ruffle in there. Yeah, I must admit, I bought this fabric as a remnant, so I've got no idea how you would describe it. I've seen it for sale in my local shop as well, so, and I'm keeping all my spare bits for Halloween, so there should be enough for a sort of mini skirt, and make some Halloween costumes out of it. Lovely, just coming up to the last quarter now. And I'm going to go over it with a zigzag as well, just to stop it from fraying. But I will be moving the cloth over so that the seam is on the outer layer of the cloth, and then moving to a zigzag all the way through. There you can. But I'm not going to do that on screen because, well, it's basically, I'm just going to put my foot down and do it, because it's already got 1 row of stitching in, then it'll hold it all in place. So now we're coming to the cuffs, and this literally, believe it or not, other than going over it and sewing it again on the bits that I haven't done so far, we're done. So I'm turning the cuffs inside out and then inserting them into the sleeve. Now there will be some gathering on this, so I'm going to take my time, and I'm going to use pins just to get it all nicely lined up. Now I think the cuff seam would look better at the top, but I don't know, you know, if you think it would be. What I'm going to say is do it the same on both rather than worry. And I've basically, this is folded over. I just think it'll look so much more tidy, and it'll be softer too. So what I've got to do is I've got to make sure that I have both pieces of fabric on the pin halfway through, so that it's equal both sides. Lovely. Because there is a little bit of gather here, which is fine, you know, as long as I know and as long as I keep it equal. And because it's stretchy fabric, I can actually stretch it to make it line up. Now when I sew this, I've got to try and make sure that I've got all three bits of fabric. So I've got both the sides of the cuff and both of the just the side of the arm. Now, yeah, it's probably best if I just go over it afterwards on the other side and have a look, so rather than getting completely worried about it. So I'm literally making sure that I know where my pins are, and then allowing the sewing machine to pick up the gather. Now rather than taking the sleeve arm off and trying and inserting it in the sleeve, because I think it'll be too tight, I'm just doing it in a circle. So lovely. Now I've left the needle down and I've swung the foot round, so it's coming up to the far side. There we go, it's a bit thick on that part. That's just the seam of the sleeve. Take my other pin out and I'm going to sew. I'm just going to double check that I haven't got a bit of fabric caught up or anything else like that, and it's all sewn in, so that's great. One thing I did do, and I have no idea why I just did that, is I finished sewing before I'd met the other line of threads, so it's because I normally start just before a seam, so who knows what I was thinking. So what I've got to do now is I've got to get the other cuff in, and then I've got to do a bit more zigzagging, and I've got to finish off the hem at the bottom, and then that's the dress finished. So I'm going to pause you again, but I will be back. So lovely, I am on the homeward straight. I am literally finished. Yeah. So that's grand. I'm happy with that. I do have to trim off the ends though. I haven't done that, so. And I know that I'm one pin missing, so it's in here somewhere, I'm sure you. Okay, so that's the main dress. It does need these bits trimming, this is what I mean, and that's my next step, and to try it on, because there's no point otherwise, is there? Alright, thank you. So hello and welcome back. Okay, I know it's not a very big room, so I'm in a traditional batwing dress. I know, well I hope it's been educational. It's always great fun to do. Please feel free to share, to like, to subscribe, that would be grand. And it's always a pleasure, and hopefully I'll see you next week. Thank you ever so much. So hello there. Well, I'm all done now. Sorry, the room's not very big. I now have a fully functioning batwing dress. So I'm really pleased with this. I have yeah, little scraps of material left over for Halloween and everything else like that. So it's been great fun, and hopefully I'll catch you again on the web. Please like, please subscribe, please go to Facebook. Alright, thank you ever so much.